Hello everyone, you are warmly welcome to Study Right Hub channel. Please remember to subscribe, comment, like and share our videos. In today's video presentation, I would like to talk about project risk management. Yes, risk is very important when it comes to project management. The reason being that everything that we do in life is all about risk. Just come to think about it, waking up in the morning from your bed, going out throughout the day to your various activities, and come back home at night, it involve risk. Just even eating, getting married, driving, they are all risky. So risk is very important when it comes to project management, and project managers must ensure that risk is being identified, or if there are more than two or more risks, they are all identified and they take the necessary steps to ensure that they have been mitigated. So it is very important to consider risk in project management. So when we talk about risk, what is risk? Risk is the probability of unwanted outcome happening, the chances or the likelihood that an unpleasant event will occur is risk, or any uncertainty that matters. Any uncertainty that matter. So if there is an uncertainty that doesn't matter to the project, it's not risk. But if it is an uncertainty that matters to the project, that will affect the project, it is a project risk. And when we talk about project risk, or even in terms of risk alone, when we talk about risk, it involves the probability of events, or the chances of an event occurring, and the consequence of that event on the activity that you are taking. So in terms of project, it is the probability of unwanted condition happening, and should it happen, what will be the consequence of the project. So project risk is an uncertain event or condition that if it occurs, it will have either negative or positive impact on the project objective or project objectives. So it is very important to identify project risk and know what step to be taken. In fact, as mentioned earlier, risk is everywhere, and when it comes to business, risk can never be eliminated. So it is very important to identify risk and put in measures to mitigate them. So the potential effects of risk on a project, it can range from trivial inconveniences to project disaster. It can be trivial issues that can be neglected, others that they can even lead to project disaster to the point that the project needs to end unexpectedly. And the risk can also happen at any stage of the project life cycle. So it needs to be taken care of so that every step needed to be taken will be done so that it can reduce its impact. And the risk that we're talking about, as I said, it can affect at any stage of the project life cycle, and also it can also originate outside the project. It is very important to distinguish risk from other words like hazard. So when we talk about risk and hazard, what is the difference? Hazard is the source of potential harm or danger, whereas risk is the probability of unwanted outcome or unwanted event occurring. So the difference is that hazard is the source, or what makes something more dangerous or harmful to a person, and the risk is about the chances of an unwanted outcome or event happening. So that is the difference. So let's take a critical look at an example like a slippery floor can be a hazard for causing someone to fall down. So when the floor is slippery, it is a hazard. and the chances of someone falling down is the risk. The chances of someone falling down is the risk. And we have exposed electrical cable. Exposed electrical cable is a hazard. When there is an exposed electrical cable, it can give a shock. But what is the chances of someone being shocked by electrical cable? That is the risk. And when the person is being shocked, the risk has occurred. And what is the consequence? The consequence is what we call risk events. So we will talk about the risk events very soon. We can also talk about broken track in the middle lane. It is also a hazard, and the chances of causing an accident is the risk. We also have other words like risk exposure. Risk exposure talks about the maximum danger or the maximum damage or loss that may occur as a result of risks. So whenever the risk occurs, what is the maximum loss? So if the floor is slippery and someone falls down, what is the loss or the maximum damage that will occur? Will the person get a broken leg or broken parts of the body, or the person gets injured? So that maximum level of loss is the risk exposure. And also we have what we call inherent risk. The inherent risk is the exposure that arises from a specific risk before any mitigation measures will be taken to manage it. So it is associated with a specific risk, and then before any mitigation measures are being taken, what is the loss that is being associated with it? And we have what we call residual risk. The residual risk is the level of risk that remains after you have put in mitigation measures to the inherent risk. You can talk about risk appetite. Risk appetite talks about the amount of risk an organization is willing to accept. So, as what level of risk do you want to accept when undergoing a project? That is the risk appetite. Or some of the companies are risk lovers and others are also risk averse. We also have what we call the risk register. The risk register is a document, but it is a concise and structured that lists all the risks that has been identified for a business project. So that risk has been identified, and the result of the risk analysis is being identified as well. The initial plans are also identified, and then the current status of that project is also identified. And these are all listed in that document, and it helps to update the project manager the status of each risk and the chances of the risk happening. So the risk register needs to be updated regularly in order to inform managers what to do next. So let's talk about risk event. When we talk about risk event, what is risk event? The risk event is used to describe the actual occurrence of the possible risk. So whenever the risk occurs, what is the impact? What is the results of that risk or the value of the risk? That is all about it, about risk events. So risk event, as we talked about risk as being the probability or the chances of the risk or event happening. And should it happen, what will be the consequence of that risk or that probability? The risk event follows a simple mathematical equation, and that is the probability of the event happening multiplied by the consequence of events occurring. That is basic formula or format or equation for risk event or risk value. Then what is project risk management? The reason why we are talking about risk is that we want to put in measures to we want to manage the risk. So what is risk management and what is project risk management? Risk management talks about identifying and analyzing and responding to risk. So if that is what risk management is, what is project risk management? Project risk management can also be said as the process of maximizing the probability and consequence of positive events occurring to the project whilst maintaining a minimum or the minimum probability and consequence of adverse events occurring to the project objectives. In other words, we are saying that project risk management is a systematic process of identifying, analyzing, and responding to project risk. So you put in measures to ensure that you identify possible events that will occur to the project, and then you assess the impact of the project, and then after doing the assessment, you decide on which steps to take in order to reduce its impact. Risk management follows a particular step, and there are four steps involved in risk management or project risk management. We want to highlight them and discuss them, each of them, into details on our next video. The first step is the risk identification. The risk identification talks about the process of you anticipating possible risks that will happen to the project and will affect the project success or its objectives. And then we have the second step, that the risk assessment. So you identify the chances and then the consequence of the risk should it occur. And then we have risk mitigation. The mitigation talks about the control measures or the steps that you put in place to reduce the impact of the risk, whether to accept it or to terminate it or even to transfer it to third party. And we have the last step, the risk control and documentation. So after you have mitigated or you have put in measures to reduce the impact of the risk, you try to control it, and then you make documentation for further or for future use, so that whenever undertaking a similar project, you can go for that risk uh, document or risk register, identify the possible risks you faced previously, and then this current project, it helps and guide you to identify possible events that will also happen. So as I said earlier, kindly watch our next video to understand what each of these steps mean, the four steps that we have identified. Kindly watch the next video to see what it involves. Thank you for watching our videos, and please remember to subscribe, comment, like, and share our videos. And if you want any other clarification, any other explanation to help you understand other topics too, you can use the link provided in the description below to join our focus group discussion, and then we help you understand your further questions and then problems. Thank you.